Charlie, we're back here. It's Good Friday, back here in my workshop for bringing the skills centre to your home. Today is all about doing resin. I want to answer though just a few questions that we've been asked over the last few days. So we're just going to do a few questions and then we'll get straight into the resin. Okay, so yesterday we turned that offset pendant, if you remember. I had one question through just to reinforce the way of making the offset jaw. So remember we said that we can use either, and if we bring the camera down, Charlie's behind the camera again like he has been most of the week. So ask questions as we get to them. So these were the chucks we used yesterday, if you remember. We used one to do the wood plate jaw itself, to do the main shape and form, and that part number was, there was a request from someone for the part number of that jaw, and that part number was 910405. That's 910405. That's a wood plate jaw which you attach the plywood to. And then we looked at the soft jaws. How do we get the offset in either the soft jaws, or if you use the wood plate jaws, how do we do that? And I held my chuck firmly in a drill vise, and then on my pillar drill I just used a series of Forstner bits to create the staggered holes in there for several sizes of pendant. So I hope that's cleared it up. Like I say, not overthinking the problem too much, just literally drilling holes offset. That's worked really, really well. So that was those two. One other question that we were asked a little bit yesterday was about the dust extractor. So Charlie, can you just turn the camera to the dust extractor? The dust extractor that we're using in here for my wood turning is an impeller type, so it creates a huge amount of air speed which draws from a long way. So instead of a vacuum, I tend to go to that. I am in the process of making a little bit more room in the workshop and giving myself a bigger extractor, and I'm going up to a slightly larger vortex type extractor, but for the minute it's this one, and the model number of that one is the AT60. I said it was the 50 yesterday. It's actually the AT60E, and that's part number is 508334. Had a fine filter cartridge on the top, so to take all our fine dust that we're producing. It works so well. I mean, you saw what was happening yesterday and the previous days, how well that's panning out. Just pan around to the other extractor, Charlie, over there, that one. That's the one that I'm going to be moving up to. To do that, I've got to take one of the windows out and give myself a little bit more room though, a little bit more space. This is working for me direct at the moment. Okay, back to us. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, one other question that we were asked yesterday, which made me smile, is what's the name of my dustpan that was in the back? Well, the dustpan's actually called a Big Mouth, and they're available again from the Axminster site. You can buy them as a dustpan or complete with the brush as well. There you go. Okay, so today is all about resin turning. All about resin turning. I just want to show you the bowl that we based this piece on. So give me some direction here, Charlie. Is that bowl in front of the camera? So what we're doing here is two things really. This was a bit of an experimental piece, how we work with bubbles, and this is a nighttime scene. Is that good, Charlie? Come in a little bit closer. Let's have a good look at this bit. Alright, so this is a nighttime scene on one side, so we're using the bubbles on this as stars, getting that lovely nighttime scene. On the other side, I've mixed two colours together to get more of an aurora look, so we get the aurora borealis coming through. So yeah, a mixture of colours. That's just by putting a heavy colour of blue, and then once I pour that in, just swirling in a separate mixed colour of yellow, yellow pigment and resin together to give me that effect. So a couple of different effects on that really nice sort of chestnut bowl. Today though, we're going to look at a few issues actually I had. So we cast the main resin.
Just quickly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Are the filters interchangeable with other Axminster extractors that have the large cloth bag style filter?
I don't know. is the answer to that one. So I'm going to have to find that out for you, and I'll post that on the usual places. And if you haven't seen it by Tuesday, before our next live video, I'll have the answer for you then. I will do the research for you, no problem. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the blanks that we cast on Monday. Now, no major problems here. Little bit of, this was capillary because I kept, I just used a little bit of tape here to hold everything down because I put some silicone sealant in it, which wasn't quite dry. So the capillaries just poured a little bit down here. Not too worried about that. That was the bit, the one that wasn't in the mould. So you can see where we are. Now the one that wasn't in the pressure pot. That's that one. Now this one was in the pressure pot. Now look at the difference. Look at the amount of drop that we've had from the resin. When I filled this, when I filled both of them, it was level with the top. But because the pressure pot was activated, if you remember, we used 2 bar on this one, it pushed the air bubbles into nothingness. They were completely out of sight. So it created far more volume for the resin to disappear in. Couldn't see it when the air was in there. When we introduced the pressure, that shrunk down, so it made more space for the resin. Now, I could have taken that out a little bit early, 2 or 3 days afterwards, and refilled it, not a problem. But now it's got to this stage, I'm stuck with it. So we're going to make it slightly thinner. However, these aren't dry enough to do today, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that maybe next week, maybe Thursday, then we can have a look at them. They are really hard, but if I really push hard, I can dent that. So it's like a hard toffee, I suppose. So sorry guys, we can't turn that one. However, I was prepared, and I've got another piece here that was done several months ago actually. This is a lovely piece of elm with, again, some more of the ecopoxy here. I haven't gone quite as dark with the colour mix, so I've just got a tint in here of green. I'm going to keep this frosted. I'm not going to go through the process of getting a real high shine with this. This is going to work well frosted, especially with this nice burr elm. So look, to prep up for, all I've done is cut this out to our round and prepped up for a screw chuck. That's all I've done. In terms of this, don't worry, you will see this come out of the mould, but like I said, I maybe hope to do this next Thursday. We're going to have a look and see what comes up for Thursday, but I'm hoping to do another one on Thursday, and we'll do those then. So we'll have a look at dismantling that from the mould then. Okay, so, but not to disappoint, let's get some resin turned today. It's going to be a nice piece, this one anyway. And we're going to mount this on the C jaws in the SK114 chuck. So little screw chuck that's going to go on there. I don't want to use the whole length of that screw, so I'm just using a little spacer, and then we can screw that onto the screw chuck. Go, that should be enough. Be a little bit careful how tight you do these up, because of course once you finish the bowl, it's all lovely and smooth. Trying to undo it from the screw chuck can be quite difficult. So I'm making sure it's tight and not tapping, but I'm not going to really graunch it on there as well. I'm happy doing pieces of this size on a screw chuck as well, because there's not a huge amount of pressure. If you're doing a big piece, I'm always going to go to a faceplate. The reason being, if for whatever reason you get a catch, if you're on a faceplate, you've got lots of fixings, you've got lots of screws. A screw chuck has one, you've got one chance, and if you rip that thread out, then the bowl goes airborne. So I'm just being fairly cautious on bigger pieces. Small bowls like this, no issues at all. I'm going to start this like any other bowl. I'm just going to clean up that outside edge first, just tickle the edge, and then we're going to do the face, create a foot for our chuck, and then basically normal bowl turning. So 2 seconds. I'm going to get my visor on. So we're dealing with a huge amount of resin at the moment on there, so I want to make sure that if worst case scenario and something did come apart, then I'm protected. So we're going to start with a 3 or 10mm bowl gouge, and just like I say, clean up the faces. So here goes. little bit of imbalance there because we've got different densities, of course. We've got that resin on one side, but I'm turning there at about 1300. So 3/8 bowl gouge, just skimming that outside edge. You won't be able to take big cuts with this. This is a nice, calm, gentle cut. And we'll stop the lathe. We're close enough there. Close enough there, yes. Grand. Now, when we come to finish this bowl, I'm going to use a push plate. So I want to make sure that I know where centre is. So let's just do a little point on centre. I'll do that with a skew. So there's my centre point, so we can marry things up nice and true. Okay, 2 seconds. So get a close-up shot of that, Charlie. I just sped away there. I wanted to show you something that's fairly new to Axminster. This is something that we've been working with Chris Fisher, the blind wood turner. You may have seen a few of his videos on YouTube lately, advertising this one. But this was an idea of his that he came up with just to identify where the correct diameter for the jaws are. And on here we've got the different jaws listed, internal, external mode. So we're going to go external, and this is just going to help me size where the correct diameter should be for my jaws. Because I've hidden my C jaws back there, this is going to be a nice quick method.
Just quickly, how does the resin work with the new Crown carbide tools?
Oh, it's beautiful. It comes off like ribbons, if I'm honest. I'm very much a purist. I do love bowl gouges, skew chisels, all those sorts of things. But, however, things like carbide tip tools have come into their own when it comes to resin. They really, really work well, because unless you're careful with a regular gouge, you're going to get a very big rake from resin, where carbide tip tools, especially the negative rake blades that you can get for them now, will give you more of that streamer effect, this sort of thing that you're going to see in a minute, something like that. So yeah, no, they work very well. A bit too big for something of this size, but if you're doing big castings, then absolutely perfect. There we are. I'm not quite sure whether you saw that. So there's my diameter for my C jaws now. We've got a nice centre hole. You can bring the tailstock up and just centralise that if you want to when you're sizing and do a mark with a bradawl. But that was just a quick pencil mark. That's going to give me the size for my C jaw. The C jaw is important. It's going to be bigger than the actual foot. It's just a sacrificial foot that I'm going to put on there. Same speed. We're happy with that speed. Just a small parting tool to give me my small foot. There we go. So most of that foot, when we finish, will disappear. It's just going to be used to start with as a hold point. So I'm just going to drag away from it. No different here to a conventional bowl.
There's 3 questions in one here. Which pressure pot do you have, and where did you buy it, and then does Axminster sell pressure pots?
At the moment, no. Again, it's one of those watch this space sorts of things. We don't sell them at the moment. The pressure pot, however, I did get from Axminster, but it's actually off of a glue system. So this was a lamello product used for their injection glue moulding. So I've using the pressure pot, and I've made my own couplers. They are available to buy online. We are looking at bringing in some pressure pots. I'm not sure on time scale on that, but again, you know, like everything, I keep saying source online. Basically, anything I can't get from Axminster Tools, I go straight online and I do the sourcing from there. That one, yes, the one I used on Monday, I got from Axminster, but not sold as a pressure pot on its own. So it's not the most economical way of buying them, I have to say. So yeah, source online at the moment, or keep looking on Axminster's website until they get their.
And then, how would you suggest to get rid of the shavings?
The shavings of the resin. Unfortunately, unlike our wood shavings, these are plastic, so mine go to they get bagged up and they get put into the dustbin like all the other refuse. So like the my normal bin man sort of thing. In terms of my wood shavings, then I compost most of my wood shavings, if I'm honest. I dig them into trenches, I put them down the bottom of my garden. I'm very lucky to have a big garden, so I compost most of my shavings. At work in the skills centre, so we produce a huge amount of shavings, so we turn them into briquettes. We're very lucky then, we can distribute them to the members of staff. So I'm going to start roughing out now. So this is just a pull cut. I'm not worried about any finish yet. And I'm not being too aggressive. I'm not being too aggressive, but I realise that I'm trying to pack this into about 40-45 minutes. So I'm probably being quicker than I need to be. I'm sure you can hear how hard this blank is, which is the resin, of course. The actual elm isn't too bad. So now we're getting there. Right, so now I'm going to start moving more into a traditional sort of finishing cut. We might get the skew out just to scrape, but let's just see how this is going to work. So bevel rubbing, just pushing up the length of the tool, and allowing that tool just to slide around. There we are. Let's just stop and have a look at that. I just want to see the best way forward now. If that's fine with the gouge, I'm just going to very gently scrape that just with the skew on its side. I think I can probably improve that finish a little bit. Resin does perform, like we said earlier, resin does perform well with a skew or scraper.
What do you clean resin spills with?
What do I
clean resin spills with?
Now, shall I give my honest answer, or shall I make one up? My honest answer, if whatever you're casting, cast on paper board, something that you can sacrifice. To be honest, if you're going to try and clean it up, I found it almost impossible. So I leave it to dry and then get rid of it. I haven't found anything that like a solvent that can clean it up, to be fair. So make sure you cover whatever you're casting on, and certainly don't do it in the kitchen or in the living room where it could potentially, if everything goes wrong, it falls onto a carpet, because you'll ruin it. So make sure you're casting on something that you can dispose of. And
what resin did you use?
Ecopoxy on here. Yeah, ecopoxy. There's loads on the market. I go for one that is a make specifically for casting though. Don't go cheap. And these are all epoxy resins. You'll find them all slightly different in the way they work. This one is a softer one to a lot that I've used. Takes a little bit longer to cure than a lot, but because it's softer, it's a little bit easier to work. There we go. So don't forget that little base that I've made there, that will not be part of the finished bowl. That's just sacrificial, just a hold point really. Now let's have a look at that. Sanding won't take too long. I'm not going to make this crystal clear, but already you can start to see some of that wonderful grain coming through. So all I want to do is enough to get rid of any tears. Well, there's a little bit of a tear there. Epoxy tears do tend to go quite deep, so you've got to get rid of them.
What skew are you using?
The Colwin Way signature skew. I'm in my own workshop, so I'm going to be using that one. Again, if I go through the reason for using this one. No, well, these are my favourite skews. Just very. What's the time, Charlie? How much time we got left?
22. You got 25.
Well, how long?
25.
25 minutes left. Pan back to me quickly.
Right, I'm going to speed through this. So, my original German skew chisel, okay, from Obenhau, so Eastern Germany. So where they're famous for making nutcrackers, Christmas decorations, you know, light angels, Christmas mirrors, all that sort of stuff. I love these skews. Carbon steel. They're hand forged, so beaten with a hammer, makes them thin this way but splays them out that way. Lovely to use. Traditional German skews, the handle would only be the length of your hand, no longer, so that wouldn't be there. But I've made this one to demonstrate with. The idea with the skew is that your hands are on the steel, so you can feel the contact area between the bevel and the timber, which is really important to stop catches. So I love that one so much, and I've tried to source one for ages. Lucky enough to do shows in Obenhau, so grabbed one. They weren't available in this country, so I thought, well, what can we do? So I approached Crown, who have come up with these. These are the Colwin Way signature skews, so that we have taken parts from the German skews, the splay, the thickness here. We've put a more traditional handle on, just thinking we didn't want to scare anybody that's scared from the skews already. So a slightly longer handle on. But now you've got the benefits of the balance. The weight distribution is far nicer. And they come with a 25-degree bevel angle on. So for beginners, it makes them much easier to use to start with. Just to practice skew. I always think if you're trying to hold a skew that's very heavy, then you're going to be forced to grip it tightly. So these in a way stop that. So that's a very, very brief reason for the being of the signature skews. Like I say, if we can get to use them at some other point in the future, then we will. I must carry on with this one, so keep asking questions though, everyone. I will try my best to get to them. So we're just going to sand this. I'm going to sand this from 100 to what? No, so we're going to start 150, 240, 400, 600. Then I'm going to do a little bit of hand sanding on the resin itself. So dust extractor, please, Charlie.
Okay, that's, for the moment, that is all the hand sanding we're going to be doing. That's right up to 400 grit. And for the elm, that's certainly ample. No need to do any more. What I can't do though, if you think about resin, you're going to have to go a lot finer on resin to stop these scratches from occurring. I don't know whether you can see them, but there's a lot of rotary. So I'm going to use a little air tool now just to take that a little bit finer. Charlie, can you just pan around to the compressor a minute? Alright, so that's my compressor. That's a quite a nice little silent, well, it's not a silent compressor, it's a low noise compressor. It's the DRS 210. But I'm just going to turn it on just to give you an idea of the sound. I mean, you can sort of certainly hear me ample over that. And this is just a little air tool that I've got off the internet. It's just a little rotary sander. I don't want to touch the elm. I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding up here, starting with 320. This isn't actually rotating, it's oscillating more, so. Don't forget what the sort of look I'm getting here is a frosted look. I don't want any swirls or lines. There we are, that's that one. So that was a 320. We're going to go straight up now to 600. And then I'm just going to go one other grade up to 1,000. Now, say for instance you wanted to go above sanding, then that sort of thing, and I know you can get these online. You could also go to your little polishing mops, and with those I would tend to use a burnishing cream, so something like the polishing and honing compounds. Now they come in medium fine, and this particular one's super fine, so you could get really glassy look if you wanted to. There we are. We'll turn the compressor off. Now we can start moving on to doing the inside. So back to what we would class as a conventional bowl, but that's the sort of look that I'm getting. How can the camera see that okay, Charlie? So there's like a frosted sort of look on this piece.
Do you use Yorkshire grit or similar?
I've used Yorkshire grit before. I don't really, it's not the sort of way I work. I tend to go with just abrasive and burnishing creams. I understand it is a fantastic product. I'm not knocking it at all. It's just not that's not the way I work, that's all. There we are. So that's what we have so far. Now with the light coming through already, you can start to see the sort of the look we're going for. Okay. Now I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to crack on now and speed this up a little.
In half an hour.
Been half an hour. I've got 15 minutes left. Right. So remember, the whole point on the back is sacrificial. I don't need to worry about damaging it. I'm going to remove my tailstock for the moment. Make sure that I'm completely protected
Charlie is well out the way.
Lathe speed to 0 to begin with. And I'm going to start with a small gouge just initially. So we're down to a little 1/4 inch. And the flute facing around about 2 o'clock. And I'm going to start just taking a few depth cuts. Now, I'm happy with the depth at the moment. And I'm going to start working further out to the outside of the bowl. I don't want to weaken the outside when I get to it. So that's firstly why I'm not going too deep at this stage. Let's just clean up that outside edge before I weaken it too much. So just a little scrape. At the moment, of course, we're just cutting timber, so it's no different than a regular bowl. Here we are now, we're getting into the resin, so let's take a smaller cut. You find that usually it's on the last cut, but if you get a catch just as you're going to start the last cut, turn the flute right the way over. So present that cutting edge dead upright. That'll give you a little sort of shoulder that you can then push against. You can then bring that flute back and around. So flute over. Okay, I'm just going to stop. We're going to have a look at that and see where we are so far. I'm going to push it a little bit further. Stop and have another look. Right. A little bit thick down there, so last cut, that one last cut. Okay, that's enough of the side wall, so now we can start coming across the bottom. The finish is absolutely fine, happy with that. So across the bottom. Go to a slightly sharper chisel. You will find that resin takes the edge off of chisels quite quickly. We can go a little bit thinner in the bottom there. Okay, just a little bit in the bottom still. This is no different than a normal bowl really at this stage. Right, that's it. That's our bowl turn. So let's just sand that one. Okay, so same grades of abrasive. We're going to start with a 150 and work our way up. 5 minutes. Right. Okay. Quick. Pop the extractor on, Charlie. Let's get this blasted out a minute. buzzing through this now, guys, so I'm just going to do a little bit with the air sander. We'll do the same thing. Just going to spin that up just to take off some of that excess dust, and we'll have a look through it. Now we're at time now, guys, so what I'm going to do is show you how to reverse this and start the process of taking the foot off, but we won't quite finish it. Let me take that off the lathe and show you where we are. So a nice little frosted look to that resin. Alright, I don't know, again, let's see if I can get this behind it. Nice little frosted look. Now, when I put some oil on this nice brown elm, I'm going to clean out the little pores first. We'll put some oil on it, that'll make it really, really dark. But yeah, a lovely little look to that resin, and a real contrast on that one. Now, I think there's a huge potential for doing something similar next Thursday, and I'll have this one finished by then as well. But just in the meantime, if you wanted to give this a go, or even just a regular bowl and reverse it, let's just show you how I'm about to do that. So to keep this, the same jaw on there, I've got a well, let's go with, I'm going to use the sanding disc, because it's going to say I'll use my regular reversing plate, but it's a little bit too large. So we'll go with a sanding disc. Don't worry, it's not going to damage the bowl. Pop that there. Tailstock back on, and this is a push plate basically. You could of course use wood plate jaws, so just turn them to the size of the rim of your bowl and then cut a groove. You could use button jaws or cold jaws, absolutely no problem whatsoever. Just be a little bit careful how much pressure you put on that resin when you're doing that. So let me just grab, we want a centre like this, with a ring on it, not a single point. Your router matting goes here. Then I'm going to bring this nice and close. Align the hole that we made earlier. Don't press too hard. There we are. And then we're ready to now turn off that base. And I've got the tool rest in there nice and close. I'd probably trim this a little bit, but then we're back to small bowl gouge again. Just trim that away. And then with that nib, if you were here last week when we done the little toffee dish, the little nib was cleaned away with a little rotary sander in the lathe and just taken off. I'm going to do the same for you next Thursday and go through that whole process just to show you exactly what I mean by that. But essentially, that's it. So for today, that was an extremely quick
demonstration of how to turn a resin bowl. I would like to say, I keep repeating myself, but I'd like to think that maybe next Thursday we could finish ones that we cast on Monday. But that was it. That was your first, or my first, demonstration of a resin bowl. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a wonderful Easter break. And I'll be back here on Tuesday, where we're going to look at all types of sharpening. So we're going to go through wet sharpening, to the ultimate edge style of sharpening, to dry sharpening, including CBN wheels as well. I'll go through a series of tools including skew chisels, bowl gouges, scrapers, the whole works. So have a lovely weekend, guys. Thank you once again for all your massive support in sticking with us this week. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.